What's up guys? So it's been a while since I've made a video for you. Just been busy. I moved within the last couple of months and just trying to find the time to make videos again. And I do have a lot of ideas and things I want to put out, so I'm going to try and be more consistent for you. But today I kind of felt compelled to ramble about this a little bit because I wanted to talk about guitar technique and improving it a little bit, because I've been seeing a lot of that talk lately online, and it's not that I think people are putting out bad information, but I think that they're missing a lot of really important points when it comes to actually making progress in this area. And to me, I think the main point that I want to communicate to you guys is that when it comes to improving your technique, guitar technique specifically, you cannot separate technique from time for the majority of what you're doing, okay? People talk about guitar technique so much. They talk about alternate picking, sweep picking, all these things, economy picking, and it's almost laughable to me that they don't mention the metronome or the rhythm that you should be practicing at all once. And that's all you ever have to worry about, okay? Like, you don't have to obsess about, like, playing a certain thing with a certain technique. Obviously, try different things and see what's comfortable for you and what is economical and all that, but you don't have to worry about that stuff at all. All you have to do is just try to focus on playing in time, and that's it. Because playing in time is half of what makes you sound good. It's probably the most important thing. So if you practice slow with perfect technique and then build it up fast from there, that's how you're really going to get actual results, And some people say things like, oh, you got to practice playing fast. And it's not that I think that that's incorrect, but I feel like they blow that point way out of proportion. I think where it's really good to actually practice fast is once you've actually gotten comfortable with playing something in time, and obviously you want to progress the speed little by little, you want to almost put it at a fast tempo where you're pushing yourself a little bit, so you're making yourself work that tempo so that when you back off to maybe a slower tempo, it feels even easier. So that's how you can use practicing playing fast. But if you're just playing fast without any concern about being in time, you're making it worse than it needs to be, and you're going to be developing bad habits, and it's going to be harder to break than if you just started slow and built it up, okay? So I'm going to give you some actual tangible practice things that you can use to really make results in this, okay? All you have to do is be intelligent about knowing how to practice with the metronome, okay? And even just one quick example, because a lot of starting out guitar players are really interested in like sweep picking, for example, and I guarantee when people start to learn how to sweep pick, they're not even thinking at all about the fact that, okay, like let's say they have like a E minor triad that they want to sweep. Okay? All they're trying to do is get that picking technique down, but really, and because this particular shape, it's a triad, so it has a three-note grouping, which basically means that any sort of triplet subdivision is what's going to make this sound nice and even within the range of what notes you're using. So really, what you should be focusing on if you want to improve your sweep picking is just focus on playing triplets and starting super slow and building it up. So say, maybe I'll do a click like this, so I'll be considering this click quarter note, and I'll do eighth note triplets, which would be 3 per click. Oh, I'm sorry. And I like to play behind the beat a little bit, because I think that that feels right, and that's why you should practice to the metronome, because that's how you're going to train your ears to hear what sounds smooth. You also want to try to get a legato sound most of the time, and legato doesn't just mean hammer-ons and pull-ups. It means having the notes ring out as smooth as possible into one another. So where more staccato would be like, and that has its own effect to it as well. But when you're only playing something like that because you don't have the ability to do it legato, that's an issue. So more legato, but still picking every note. Okay, and I'm not even caring about if I sweep pick most of those, because every single shape that you learn is going to lend itself to being played a different way, okay? And that's really what you need to focus on when it comes to practicing technique specifically, especially melodic linear technique, like solo guitar type ideas. That obviously requires technique, right hand fingerstyle technique as well, but we're really talking about linear solo melodic playing today, because that's what a lot of people talk about when they talk about developing guitar technique. So it's just a matter of becoming fluent with different shapes, and you can be learning shapes for the rest of your life. So this is not even a topic that has to do with more beginners or advanced guitar players. Everything I'm talking about today is stuff that you should be working on if you're a serious guitar player, literally for the rest of your life. So when I say shapes, what do I mean? The three main categories of shapes are basically your chord shapes, scale shapes, and arpeggio shapes. And they really all are kind of like the same thing. I like to think about harmonic devices more in terms of categories of like the specific quantities of notes that you're using to express a certain harmony. So anywhere from like 1 note to 12 notes, which is a full chromatic scale. 7 notes to me is like a true, like complete scale. Anything more than 7, the extra notes would be considered passing tones. You have your hexatonic scales, pentatonics, quadratonics, triads, dyads, and then single notes. So you can break things up into categories like that. So obviously nobody knows every shape and every possibility. So like I said, you can become more fluent with this for the rest of your life. So maybe I'll do an example today where I'll pick like a third version of like a major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio. So let's say I do that in the key of A flat, so A flat, major 7 sharp 5. If I start on the third, which is over here, and maybe the thing that makes this guitaristic and unique to this specific thing on the guitar is the fact that it's third inversion and I'm starting on the E string with my middle finger. That lends itself to a specific shape. Okay? So, really, when it comes to practicing in time, you want to practice different subdivisions of a pulse, because when you're playing for real, you don't really think about rhythms like consciously, they just happen. But by practicing them individually, you're more comfortable just feeling them naturally, so when it actually comes time to play them in a moment, you can do it. So I kind of got this idea from Mark Turner where I'll put the metronome to start on like 30 beats per minute, which to me is sub-actual music tempos, and I'll practice different subdivisions of the beat. So say this click is a quarter note. So I like to use the numbers 1 through 8, okay? So if I divide 1 by 1, so 1 would be the first number, that would just be playing every time it clicks, which would just be quarter notes. And I like to do things like playing behind a beat, like I said before. So, and 2, and 3, and 4, and I like to subdivide in between to help me feel when the quarter notes, there's a lot of space in between them. Okay, and then I would practice that more until it becomes comfortable, but then I would do the next one, which would be eighth notes, still behind the beat. Okay, then eighth note triplets. Now I'm going to add an extra note at the top because the triplet subdivisions have, hold on a second. The triplets, because most of these subdivisions are going to be a multiple of either 2 or 3. So the ones that are a multiple of 2, like your quarter notes or 16ths or 8ths or 32nds, those you want to have a specific range of notes so that those even groupings fit. So I'm making it the 2-octave range. But with triplets, I add an extra note to the top so that when I get back to the beginning, it evenly starts on a downbeat at the same note. Right? So then you're back to the beginning at the downbeat. You can do 4, which would be 16th notes. Okay, I'll do 5. Right? 6 would be 16th note triplet. Okay, and then I haven't been doing 7 too much, and 8 per click, which is the fastest, usually is 32nd notes. Right? And And from there, I might increase it little by little, like 3 beats per minute at a time. And this is how I'll increase the speed. Well, see, this one falls under the same category as any of the even subdivisions. So when you're practicing this one, in a way, you're still kind of practicing your eighth notes, sixteenths, things like that. So I can use this one to build my speed. Okay, and I'm going to jump the speed even more. Usually, 60 with 30-second notes is kind of fast. Okay, so obviously I would never jump up to that like that. A lot of times, like I said, I gradually build it up 3 beats per minute at a time. But you can see that's how you do it intelligently, and you build up the speed little by little. I have a lot of private students, and I talk about this stuff with them all the time, because this is really how you practice technique, okay? I always tell them, practicing anything, the idea is to start with a tempo on the metronome that is, as I described, obnoxiously slow. Your attitude towards it should be, well, of course I could play it at that speed, but that's how you need to play it, okay? Like I said, it's stupid to try and play fast without any sense of what the metronome is doing at all, because all you're going to be doing is developing bad habits, and you're not going to be playing in time. And now I'm just hammering in the point over and over again, but that is what you need to understand about developing technique. Don't care about technique. Care to an extent, but what you should be focusing on is that your notes are in time and they feel good against a pulse. That is what makes the music sound good. Nobody cares if your economy picking or your sweep picking is smooth. If you are in time and you're playing the correct notes, I promise you, you will sound good. And the only way you're going to develop that and get a sense for what's correct is if you practice with the metronome, okay? So, and it's not like, other people obviously know to practice with the metronome too, but like I said, that's why I think it's sort of like a joke that people hate guitar players, because a lot of times I think when you have these young guitar students, they neglect playing with the metronome. I see it all the time with my students. No matter how much I stress it, I ask them the next week, so have you been playing or practicing with the metronome? They're like, not really, because I feel like people think guitar is a toy, and they don't need to treat it almost as if they're being classically trained like a lot of other instruments, even if you're trying to play jazz as well. So I think you get my point at this point, but that's how I think you should go about practicing a lot of your technique. Again, don't worry about the technique, just care about playing in time, and that's how you'll get to where you need to be going. So I hope you took something from that, and hope to talk to you soon.